8:32, and I'm the reason we're a little late, but it's good to be here with you all. I'd like to call our meeting to order. For those around this table, make sure that you turn on your microphone when speaking. For those who are participating via Zoom, please state your name when making a comment or asking a question. The MAG public format allows members of the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction. So if there are those who would like to comment at today's meeting, please complete the request to speak form. MAG staff can assist with any questions that you might have. And of course, if you parked in the garage, parking validators are available on the information table in the hallway. The fine gentleman out there lives in Chandler, just saying. If you purchased a transit ticket to come to the meeting, please see staff for a ticket. Hearing assisted devices are available for MAG staff. We will now begin the meeting with a roll call of all the members.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the Regional Council, I will go down the list of members alphabetically. Please unmute and indicate if you are present. Mayor Beck, Mayor Bien Wilner.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Crane, Ms. Daniels.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Dickey, Mayor Gallego.
Here.
Thank you. Supervisor Galvin, Mayor Giles.
Here.
Thank you. Supervisor Goodman, Mayor Hall.
Here.
Thank you. Chair Hartke.
Present.
Thank you. President Javier, Mayor Hermosillo, Mayor Lavalde.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Governor Roe Lewis, Mayor Molina, Mayor Molina.
Present, sorry.
Thank you. Mayor Morris, Mayor Osborne.
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Ortega.
Present.
Thank you. President Patia.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Pereira. Mayor Peterson.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Pineda.
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Pizzillo. Mayor Rodriguez.
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Schultz.
Present.
Thank you, Mayor Schultz. Mayor Sykes. Mayor Smith.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Walter. Mayor Wires.
Present and accounted.
Thank you. Mayor Wheatley.
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Wilson.
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Woods. Is there anyone that I missed? Mr. Chair, we have quorum.
Thank you so much. And before we proceed to our next agenda item, would like to introduce our newest member from Avondale, Mayor Mike Pineda. Mayor Pineda will complete Mayor Weiss's term, and in January will begin his elected term. So he's now the mayor-elect. So we look forward to working with Mayor Pineda and look forward to sharing these decisions and garnering your wisdom to help us lead this region. We do also want to recognize and thank three important members of the Regional Council. Former Mayor of Avondale, Ken Weiss, has been a strong leader for our region. Ken was the chair of the Regional Council, was instrumental in guiding the process for the successful passage of legislation to enable our voters the chance to continue the dedicated half-cent sales tax for transportation as Prop 479. Ken has dedicated almost 2 decades to his community with the most recent 10 years serving on the Regional Council. We want to thank Ken and we wish you well in your future endeavors. I think all of us were in awe of the amount of hours and stumping that you did for Prop 479 and heartfelt gratitude from every one of us here. So. We also want to recognize 2 members whose final meeting at MAG is today. Mayor Rui Pereira contributed greatly to the town of Wickenburg, has been a faithful member of the Regional Council as mayor since 2019, and Mayor Tara Walter led the town of Florence and served as the member of the Regional Council since 2017. We thank you all that you've done for your community, our entire region, and the state. And again, we thank you. Next on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please stand and join me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next on our agenda is call to the audience. This is an opportunity for the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda. Information items are items on the agenda for discussion and not for action. A number of minutes will be provided, 15 for the call to the audience. And we have received, how many again, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've received one written comment for the call to the audience has been provided to the members in advance of the meeting for consideration.
Okay, and no live today. MAG also provides opportunities to the public to submit written comments. And as mentioned, these are within more than 2 hours. These have been shared with committee members. So with that, we will continue to item number 4, which is information items. This is for information 4A for information only. Does any of the members of the committee have any questions or request a presentation on this item? Hearing none. Let's proceed to 5. Well, actually, no, with 4A, again, it's just, we've looked at it. I'm still a little catching up from catching here with our Waymo ride, so. Item 5 is approval of our consent agenda. Items 5A through F are on the consent agenda. Does any member of the committee have questions or request a presentation on any of these items? Hearing none. Prior to approval, there was opportunity for members of the public to speak. Again, I understand we have none. So is there a motion to approve items 5A through 5F?
Make the motion to approve.
I heard Mayor Osborne. Is there a second? Mayor Smith? Those who are participating online, please turn on your cameras, unmute your audio. For those who cannot or do not want to, staff will conduct a roll call vote. We know you're probably in Hawaii and you're just not wanting us to see that, but we'll honor that. So please leave your cameras on. Can I have a voice vote? And those online, those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed? All right, staff, how did we do?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When I call your name, please indicate how you vote. And I'd like to acknowledge Vice Mayor of Florence, Johnny Mendoza has joined us. And the cameras that are not on, Mayor Rodriguez, how do you vote?
Yay.
Thank you. And Mayor Bien Wilner, how do you vote?
Aye.
All right, very good. Thank you. And Mr. Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you so much. Items number 6 is notice of federal discretionary grant funding for US 60 35 Avenue. Indian School Road Grade Separation Project. This item is for information and discussion, will be presented by our very own John Bullen.
Thank you very much, Chair Harkey, members of the MAG Regional Council. Thrilled to be here today to share with you some very exciting news for the region. So I want to start off this presentation by giving a little bit of background, a little bit of context. So the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, or IIJA for short, was signed into law back in 2021. This was the federal surface transportation legislation, and it really was historic in many regards, primarily because it increased funding both from a formula perspective as well as a discretionary perspective over previous levels. One of the other elements of the IIJA is that it greatly expanded the number of discretionary competitive programs that were available nationwide, and of course, increased the amount of funding available to those programs. So following the IIJA, we visited with this group, the MAG Regional Council, to talk a little bit about what the region's strategy should be in pursuit of federal discretionary grants. Now, when we're talking federal discretionary grants, these are usually highly resource-intensive endeavors. It takes a lot of coordination, a lot of staff time, a lot of effort, coordinating across multiple agencies. So we wanted to be very strategic, intentional, and deliberate about which opportunities we pursued. Direction we got at the time was to really focus on our big regional projects or big regional programs and identify opportunities that if we were successful with a discretionary grant, it would provide benefit across the region. So with that, want to then touch on the project at hand. The project that we're talking about is the US 60 Grand Avenue, 35th Avenue, and Indian School Road grade separation project. So this is an area, Grand Avenue travels in and out of the West Valley, in and out of downtown Phoenix. What you notice is that there's a lot of congestion along this area in particular. In fact, when we're talking about Grand Avenue, really the primary bottleneck that you see throughout the corridor is at Indian School. So motorists, freight activity traveling in and out experiences some challenges here at Indian School. There's also a number of crashes at this location. Crashes not just involving vehicles, also non-motorized transportation, so bikers, walkers, as well as rail conflicts. So there's actually 2 at-grade rail crossings here. In fact, the Federal Railroad Administration published a report back in 2016. This particular location was identified as number 2 in the entire country as the most amount of incidents. So certainly it's an area that has a number of challenges. Here's another illustration looking top down. I think it does a good job of representing some of the complexities here. 6-legged intersection. You have Indian School going up and over the roadway. You have 35th Avenue and Grand Avenue meeting at grade. You see those rail crossings in 2 locations. You have folks trying to get on and off Grand Avenue, sort of jogging their way through from Indian School Road. So a lot of challenges. Here's another great drone photograph that shows some of the congestion. So this is a normal weekday as people are traveling into downtown Phoenix. You can see all the traffic backing up. You can see it a little bit, but just after this intersection, you see a lot of empty roadway ahead, which really illustrates the bottleneck at this particular location. So in recognition of those challenges, funding is actually identified as part of the current Prop 400 program, the Freeway program, to make improvements. We've been working on this effort in partnership with ADOT going back to 2020, 2021 or so. Here's the concept for what the improvements are. Essentially what it will do is elevate 35th Avenue to meet Indian School Road at an elevated intersection up and over Grand Avenue. Allows that Grand Avenue traffic to be continuous, eliminates both at-grade crossings with the railroad, and overall significantly enhances mobility, significantly enhances safety. So let's talk a little bit about the grant itself. So we felt like this was a very competitive grant application for a number of reasons, but the primary is essentially when you look at all the evaluative factors, when you look at the criteria, this project pretty much checks them all. There's a significant amount of what the feds consider local funding or our half-cent sales tax that we've already identified for the project. You have demonstrated issues with the railroad. You have congestion. That congestion impacts freight and commerce. As part of the proposed project, we're making multimodal enhancements. We're accommodating high-capacity transit on both Indian School and 35th Avenue. And it's also located in a historically disadvantaged area. So a very competitive grant for a number of reasons. So we worked to put together grant applications over the summer. There's actually 3 different applications that were submitted. Want to compliment our staff, Steph Stearns and Armenta Syed. They did a big lift. A lot of these grant applications are very quick turnaround. Necessitates pulling a lot of information together in a short period of time. I would say the other partner I want to recognize, City of Phoenix. City of Phoenix staff certainly contributed a lot. They were actually the submitting grants because MAG was ineligible. So a really great partnership between MAG, City of Phoenix, ADOT, and BNSF. In total, our grant ask was $146.6 million, which is just over 40% of the total project cost. So on Monday, we were notified from the U.S. Department of Transportation that we received our full grant request of $146.6 million. This is a very big deal. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money that will benefit directly to the region. So to articulate what that benefit is, I want to sort of walk through a quick illustration. Here's a quick illustration of the different funding composition that would have gone, excuse me, into this project. You have the majority of it coming from the regional half-cent sales tax. You certainly have some other funding. BNSF has contributed $5 million towards the project, as well as some funding from the city of Phoenix. So with the grant application, the grant award, it's a total of $146.6 million against the total project cost of $356 million. And so essentially what that does is it reduces the amount of regional funding that would otherwise be required to the project. So when you think about that, it's not just the project that benefits, it's actually the entire region that benefits. And so with this additional funding, you can essentially think of it as flowing into the freeway program. What that has the net effect of allowing us to do is that we're better able to handle some of the cost increases, and we'll be able to advance some of the projects both in the Prop 400 freeway program and the Prop 479 program. So while this project received the grant, pretty much everybody across the region sees a benefit from it. So I want to end with a few key takeaways. First, I want to really underscore the importance of the dedicated half-cent sales tax. We spent the last couple of years really talking about Prop 479, the extension of the dedicated half-cent sales tax. Part of what we've articulated is that this is a funding source that untaps new funding for us. So you can think of the dedicated half-cent sales tax collections, the projects that it improves. But here's a great illustration of this money being able to bring almost $147 million of new funding into the region. That's funding that would otherwise have gone to other states, other regions. So certainly the half-cent sales tax was instrumental in that. This is also a historic award. This is the largest award that the freeway program has ever received. And everybody's going to be able to reap the benefits because we're going to be able to better manage our Prop 400 freeway program and even look at accelerating some of our efforts from 479. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Well timed on that. Are there any questions from the committee, from the council? Jen Daniels.
Congratulations. I think this actually really speaks well to the continued work that you all are doing to secure those federal funds. I know that you guys have made some shifts in sort of that approach over the last couple of years, and I think this is the fruition of those efforts. So congratulations. I know writing grants is not a small task in any way, shape, or form, and I know you kind of probably sat with bated breath to find out what the actual outcome or response was. So congratulations, best possible outcome.
Thank you.
And I'll also add to that and to Phoenix and the rail. We understand the importance of in order to get these projects, we had to have Prop 400 in place, and to continue this progress, the importance of 479. And I want to thank you and Audra and Mag for continuing to squeeze the most out of the dollars in order to bring the most benefit to our greater community. Is there any online that would like to comment? Seeing none. Oh, I see Mayor Geigo has her hand up.
Thank you, Chairman. I want to thank the MAG team and all of our partners in this project. We have had some very tragic accidents where we have lost members of our community at this intersection. It is confusing and just has so much potential to improve. So I think we're saving lives as well as making easier commutes, less time stuck sitting at tough intersections. So we're so thankful to everyone involved with this and just continue to be thrilled by what the bipartisan infrastructure law is doing for Maricopa County. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Next on our agenda, as you can see, this is a little out of order because it was good news and we're able to include it, but overview of the sub-regional transportation needs. This item is on the agenda as well for information and discussion. This will be presented by Brady Williams, our transportation engineer.
Thank you, Chairman Harkey and members of the Regional Council. Over the last several months, we've been presenting updates of various geographic areas in the region to highlight transportation issues and efforts that are being made to resolve them. I'm going to give you an overview of 4 different geographic areas where we have given these updates to other committees at MAG. We started with the Northwest Valley, then we went to the Southeast, to the Southwest, and then finally North Valley. And I'm going to start this presentation with the Northwest Valley. Okay, there we go. So the Northwest Valley is basically along the US 60 corridor from the 303 freeway up to State Route 74. But as you can see in this diagram, it spreads out quite wide in both directions from the US 60. Now, today there are about 50,000 people in the area you saw in the previous slide. That's not a high density of people, but this is a rapid growth area. The number is going to grow by 100% by 2030 in just 6 years to over 100,000, and will reach 250,000 by 2050. Now, even though the number today, 50,000, is pretty small, we have some significant issues to deal with. If you look at the diagram, you see the little box at the bottom right. That's the interchange of the 303 with US 60 and also a little north, 163rd Avenue. There are some significant issues at this location. It's really congested. And the reason for that is very simple. It's the only way in and out of the area. You're 4 miles away, 3 or 4 miles away from any other interchange that can get you into this area. Now, a lot is being done over the last year to rectify this situation, including a number of improvements at both the interchange of the 303 and Grand Avenue, and also at 163rd. I'm going to spare the details of these improvements right now. There's another presentation this morning that we'll talk about that in more detail. I will highlight, though, the orange circle that you see there. We're looking for another interchange location so we can provide some redundancy with another interchange. That work is underway right now. We have, from Prop 479, from the investment plan, we have a number of improvements, which would include building that new interchange, as well as a number of other improvements that you can see here at the same time. Now, there's a study underway right now, the US 60 Grand Avenue Corridor Study. For this entire area, it's focusing not just on Grand Avenue and the junctions along the Grand Avenue, but it's also looking at the arterial system throughout this entire area. The objective is to find a way to provide the arterial street network as it's needed, and being sure that's in sync with the improvements that are being made on US 60 at the same time. Now, moving on to the next area, the Southeast Valley. This area includes portions of Apache Junction, Mesa, Queen Creek, and Florence. And it also includes a lot of unincorporated area and a lot of Arizona State Land Development land as well. This area actually is already over 300,000 people in population, and it's rapidly growing still, and it's going to reach 600,000 people by 2050. And it has some of the same issues that we just talked about in the Northwest Valley. That this started earlier when it was in its earlier stages of growth. But today we generate 97,000 home to work trips every workday in this area. And as you can see from this illustration, most of them have to go into the central portions of the valley in order to find their jobs. So this is similar to what we saw in the Northwest Valley. But we've seen this happening over time and have been taking actions, one of them being providing State Route 24, which provides that movement from going northbound to westbound. And even with this, we're seeing a congestion already at the intersections along this area. Now, this is what State Route 24 looks like today. The blue lines are freeway. The gold lines are at-grade streets. And this is designed in a way that the at-grade streets can be converted into freeway interchanges by building bridges. The design for that improvement is underway, and it's its construction will be funded through the Prop 479 investment plan. This will widen the entire area to 3 lanes in each direction and provide the tight diamond interchanges at the major cross streets. Then there'll be an additional improvement, which is widening it up to 4 lanes. That will be much later in the investment plan when the population starts to get around 500,000 people and we need the additional capacity. There are also a lot of arterial street improvements in this area that are being funded out of Prop 479. I'm not going to go through all the details, but there's a lot of work being done here to provide the arterial improvements that are needed in this area as well. On the longer term, we have a plan for a major north-south freeway that will go all the way from US 60 down to I-10. That's about 50 miles. The first section of that is the 20-mile section that you see in this image. There's currently an environmental impact statement process going on that will define the alignment and the locations of all the interchanges, including an alignment of an extension of State Route 24 to go out to this freeway. However, there's no funding for design or construction of this at this moment. We just have the environmental impact statement underway. And there's a study going on here as well. It's the Superstition Vistas Multimodal Transportation Plan. This is looking at this entire area, both the arterial streets and the major highways. And this plan is scheduled to be completed about a year from now. Moving on to the Southwest Valley, we are now over on I-10 to the west in Buckeye and Goodyear areas, roughly from the 303 over to US 85. And again, this area has more than 350,000 people today, and it's going to grow to 750,000 by 2050. And here's just some illustration so you can see how the growth is happening here. It's just phenomenal growth in this area. We've known this has been happening and several actions have been taken. We've added interchanges at Miller Road and Watson Road. We've added a 3rd lane to I-10 from Verado Way over to US 85. And if you've ever driven through this section, you can understand how important it was to get that extra lane there. We have more going on. We're designing HOV lanes for I-10. We have an extension of Loop 303 down to the future Route 30. And you can see the dotted line there. We have a portion of this that's actually in design for construction of the first section over by the 202. We're also requiring right-of-way for the section between the 202 and the 303. This is under Prop 400. Under Prop 479, we will be building the entire center section of State Route 30 from the 202 to the 303. And we will be adding to that an interim improvement to the western section, which takes you all the way over to the 85 again. Now I'll move to the North Valley. The North Valley runs basically from the interchange of the 101 and I-17 up to State Route 74. And this is an area where we have, again, almost 250,000 people today. But that population is in the southern end, most of it south of the 101. On the northern end, there's less population, and that's where the growth is coming. You can see here that below the 101, the dots here look pretty much the same. One dot, by the way, is 15 people, I think, in this diagram. But the growth is occurring up on the northern part of this. Now, it's not that much growth. So why is it that we're bringing this up as an issue? There are a couple reasons. We've broken it up into 2 sections. The northern section is dealing with growth, but it's not just growth along the corridor. It's also growth all around the region that has to use this corridor I'll talk about that again in a moment. And then the southern end it's not growing there, but we have congestion issues to deal with. So now I'm going to start with the northern section. And when you look at this diagram, the interesting thing that I see from this is how few arterial streets there are. You see I-17 vertically going through the middle. You have to go, except for one street, 19th Avenue and North Valley Parkway, you have to go about 9 miles in each direction to find any other parallel route that takes you through that area. And east and west, you don't have a single route that takes you all the way through. So the interesting thing is, even with this problem, there's only one interchange that's failing today, and that's the interchange with the 303. TSMC is building up there. And we also may remember back around Memorial Weekend when there was a full closure on the 17, that the lack of parallel routes became evident to us all at that time. Why is this happening? Well, the simple reason is there's just a lot of traffic, a lot of demand coming all the way from Flagstaff, coming down into the region. You're having continuing growth on the 303. They want to come into the central part of the region. They don't have parallel routes to do it. And so that's why we're dealing with this problem. The solution for the interchange that's failing today is ready to go. We have a full system interchange with elevated ramps ready to go. As soon as we have funds available from Prop 479, we can begin construction of that. We have other improvements that are going to provide some parallel roads. So we've got the 303 connecting to Sonoran Desert Road. We've got Happy Valley Road going through, and 67th Avenue will provide more north-south connection as well. So these are things that Prop 479 will help us to construct. On the south side, it's really all about one interchange, and that's the interchange of the 101 and the 17. It's a very elegant design, but there are problems that when you have a problem on one ramp, it affects other ramps. So today we have people westbound on the 101 wanting to go northbound. That gets jammed up, and that then causes issues on other ramps that are connecting to that ramp system. The same thing happens in the other direction in the morning during work days. Now, why is it that we're having that much problem? If we go back to this diagram and understand the number of people who make this route, a lot of them want to go from the north part of the region to the east part of the region. This is their only way to do it. And those ramps today have only one lane in each direction. So we have a number of improvements going on to help this situation, including widening one of those ramps. The westbound to northbound ramp will be widened and improved. And we have other improvements in the area as well that are funded under Prop 400. Under 479, we'll be able to put direct HOV lanes at the interchange of the 101 and the 17. There are also a lot of improvements south of 101 and 17 that can be provided. So when we bring this back together, we recognize that we're going to need to start another sub-area transportation corridor study, which will be the North Valley study to look at all of these issues. That is scheduled to begin sometime in FY 2026. So now, what can we take away from these four updates? Well, first thing is congestion is going to be with us. It's not going away. No matter what we do, growth is going to continue increasing congestion. We're doing a lot. We have a lot of projects underway. We have a lot more coming in the future through Prop 479. But even with all of that, we have a number of other challenges that we need to deal with, mostly related to growth. So this is just really the beginning of a process that we have to continue going through. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, that completes my presentation.
And left unsaid, but I'll say it is, without 479, this is a complete disaster. There is no answer. Fortunately, Bradley with 479 has some answers.
Bradley, excellent presentation. Are there questions or comments?
I do have a comment.
Mayor Osborne.
Thank you, Chair. Bradley, thank you for the tour around the valley again. And I think I say this every time, really appreciate you guys providing a snapshot of what transportation looks like in other areas. I from experience can say that I've driven through each one of these areas and have experienced the difficulty in navigating through these corridors. And when we talk to people in our community about Prop 479 and the importance of that in the region, we can specifically talk about the projects that are in our area, but can also talk to some of these other areas that are experiencing the exact same thing with a rapid growing community and have needs for some of these other projects that are out there. And we'll every now and then have a community member say, well, I'm not in favor of any of the transit or those types of opportunities or the smarter infrastructure we're starting to put in and contemplate in the new plan. But I have to remind folks that there are a lot of people that maybe are in Queen Creek that have no idea what Jackrabbit Trail is. And so there's a balance to all of this. And we have so much more buying power moving forward if we are all in this together and working to improve transportation on a regional scale. And these presentations are so helpful. I can point our folks to these presentations to explain the needs that are in all these areas. So thank you again for the Tour de Region, and really appreciate the time you guys have put into sharing the story. Thank you,
Thank
Chair.
you, Mayor.
Well
Orthorn.
stated. Additional comments or questions from the board? Do we have any online?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. We did not receive any written comments online, and I do not see any members with their hand up.
Right. Well, again, thank you, Mr. Williams. Tremendous presentation and well stated, Mayor Osborne.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda, item number 7 is the Freeway Life Cycle Program Minor Improvements Funding Request. That's a mouthful. US 60 Grand Avenue at Loop 303, the next phase interim improvements. This item is on the agenda for approval and will be presented by Tim Stroh, Major Projects Manager. Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the MAG Regional Council. Every May, the Freeway Life Cycle Program gets updated here in MAG. It goes through the committee process and is approved. The FLCP fiscal year 2025 version includes $10 million for freeway minor improvements. This is a great program, very flexible program that allows the region to react quickly to address safety issues and congestion hotspots around the valley. So this recommendation would be to program 4.2 million of that funding. So before we get into the specifics of the proposed improvements that we're bringing forward to you today, I do want to talk about some of the history of this corridor. Brad just gave you a highlight of transportation issues in the Northwest Valley. This is the exact location that we're proposing improvements to, the section of US 60 between 163rd Avenue and Loop 303. As Brad highlighted, the Northwest Valley, we're looking at this area here highlighted in the blue square. The study area for the proposed projects is highlighted in red. This area is, as Brad mentioned, is growing at a rapid pace, but this US 60 Grand Avenue corridor also provides a lot of significant regional connections. It's a major freight corridor, providing access to Wickenburg, Kingman, and to Las Vegas area, but also is the kind of the lifeline of the city of Surprise. It provides a lot of emergency access. It bisects the city of Surprise, so it's a main corridor for the member agency. Brad highlighted on the growth. So back in this part of the valley has not always been growing at a rapid pace. Back in 2010, it was about 5,000 people, and as you can see on the chart, it's going to top out at 250 by the year 2050, which is a significant increase. Folks living along Grand Avenue corridor, if they're located immediately to that section of roadway, they have to use Grand Avenue to connect to central part of the valley to get access to Loop 303. If you live in Peoria or Eastern Surprise, you have a lot of different options. you can connect the 4 different traffic interchanges you can see highlighted on the map. So here's an example of how bad traffic is in the corridor. A lot of the growth that's occurring in this area is located off 163rd Avenue. It takes residents about 10 minutes to get through that intersection, an additional 2.6 minutes to connect to the Loop 303. That's a lot of delay occurring at this area. Here's some illustrations of the traffic conditions today in this area. Here, this arrow you're seeing is pointing off towards Wickenburg. So you're looking northwest, US 60 Grand Avenue. You can see traffic backing up from 163rd Avenue back to the Loop 303 on and off ramps. And then also traffic backing up on 163rd Avenue. This is another snapshot of a drone photo we took of the corridor. This is not during the peak hour, but you can still see traffic backing up between 163rd Avenue and Loop 303. A lot of traffic is queuing up in that right turn lane, residents trying to get off Grand Avenue. That's one of the issues we see today. Traffic backs up, spills into the through lanes, creates more congestion. We also have a rail line located in this corridor, BNSF rail lines. You can imagine during peak hours, if we have a train running through there, it only makes things significantly worse. So back in 2022, ADOT received a state appropriation to do a feasibility study to identify near-term improvement projects at this location, and to actually construct those findings. What they did was back in they identified improvements at 163rd Avenue and Loop 303 Grand Avenue. The slide on your left, the improvements highlighted in blue were constructed this last December. The projects, the lines on the map you see highlighted in yellow are projects that are currently under construction today. They are building a triple left turn lane at 163rd Avenue and adding additional westbound and eastbound through lane along Grand Avenue. The graphic on your right, they're adding additional left turn lane that's currently under construction today. So that'll be triple lefts and additional right turn lane. So as Brad highlighted in his previous presentation, we are conducting a regional transportation corridor study through this area in partnership with ADOT, BNSF, McDOT, City of Peoria, and City of Surprise. This project's anticipated to be wrapped up next fall. We are going to be looking at identifying roadway improvements to US 60 Grand Avenue and the surrounding arterial system. As part of this study, we conducted our first public open house in August of this year. This meeting was really intended to sit down and listen and talk to the residents of the community. We actually had the public meeting located at Sante Prep School. We're off of 163rd Avenue where you see all the congestion occurring. We talked to the residents, we rolled out maps, we gave them an update on the ADOT near-term improvement projects that are currently under construction today, but we truly wanted to sit down and talk to the residents. Over 30,000 people use 163rd Avenue on a daily basis. So we wanted to get their response on the issues that they were dealing with on a daily basis. We kept hearing from the community that there was, the residents were very concerned about their kids going to school every day. There's a large population that is bused out of the area and they are constantly late for school and returning home each day. There's a lot of safety issues in the corridor. But we really wanted to hear, they drive this corridor, they have the hindsight to really look at what's been happening in the past and what's going on in the future and the issues they're seeing on a daily basis. So we asked them to provide us with a list of improvements they'd like to see done in the corridor. And I wanted to take a second and thank our member agencies, specifically City of Surprise, Mayor Hall. We had over 175 people show up this meeting. It's probably closer to 200 people. We had over 22 staff members from the different agencies show up, participate, and help run this meeting. And we could not have done it without their help. So thank you to Surprise, Peoria, ADOT, McDOT. Really appreciate the support. So at the end of this meeting, we sat down with our consultant team and we said, is there anything else we can do in this corridor in addition to ADOT's near-term improvements? Let's look at the public comments and let's analyze things and come up with a plan. So we identified 5 different proposed projects that I'm now going to walk you through. These are the projects that are proposed for additional funding. The first recommendation is on Grand Avenue. We're going to add a double right turn lane, to southbound Loop 303 on ramp. So right now today, traffic backs up, which you can imagine, you see in those pictures. starts to clog up the through lanes, we have a bottleneck condition. So this will definitely add more capacity and improve traffic operations at this location. The next proposed project stays on the southbound Loop 303 on-ramp. We're going to extend the Gore Point a couple hundred feet. So since we're adding additional right turn lane, we're going to have more vehicles entering that ramp. We want to give the residents in that area a little bit additional time to merge and get on the 303 safely. This next recommendation is at an intersection to the northwest of 163rd Avenue, half a mile between Deer Valley and 163. So right now, this is a direct, we had a lot of comments from the residents in this area that people use this unsignalized intersection as not as a cut through, but it serves a frontage road. There's a lot of traffic on this section of roadway. So what we're doing is providing a decel and acceleration lane at this location so residents can get on and get off Grand Avenue safely. Right now, what you do is you have an experience where people are using Grand Avenue driving 60 miles an hour down the road. Someone pulls out in front of them before 163rd Avenue and creates safety issues. The next proposed recommendation is adding a triple left at southbound Loop 303 off-ramp. This will allow residents or people passing through, it'll line them up to be able to get in the right turn lanes for 163rd Avenue. We'll be able to push more traffic through the intersection and improve delay. The last proposed recommendation is to add an additional fourth eastbound and westbound through lane at the intersection. If this project is approved today, these proposed recommendations, the consultant team will be able to go into final design pretty immediately on this and look at how to merge these lanes together through the intersection. So quickly, let's touch on the AM peak hour by approach to show how these improvements will improve the intersection operations. The slide on the left are the numbers that I showed you previously. You can see at 163rd Avenue, southbound, 9.8 minutes, which we showed earlier. The center graphic, 2030, after the ADOT improvements are completed at the end of this year. You can see based on population continue to grow in that area, delay in that area starts to creep back up by 2030. And then after the proposed, I'm sorry, excuse me, we're missing a slide here? No, we're not. All right, after 2030, the graphic on the far right side, you can see that we start to bring down the delay at the southbound approach. So back in 2023 is 9.8 minutes, drop it down to 6.7. But I also want to point out delays in the eastbound direction of about 5 minutes. And the northbound ramps, we cut that in half. So Brad touched on some of the Prop 479 improvements that are located in this area. ADOT's near-term improvements are proposed improvements. It's not the final solution for this quarter by any means. These are to help provide some relief in the short term until projects identified in Prop 479 can be implemented. Some of those that we touched on earlier is the US 60 Loop 303 Ultimate System Interchange, grade separation at 163rd Avenue and US 60. We're also looking at additional TI access along Loop 303. If these proposed projects are approved today, we will be able to go to final design immediately and go out to bid advertisement and construction probably in spring of next year, early summer. Mr. Chair, members of the MAG Regional Council, that completes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Number one, I want to thank Brad for contributing to the slide deck extensively. Well done. So 4.2 billion will fund all of the proposals that you've mentioned there in terms of the additional lanes. That's the current speculation on that?
Mr. Chair, 4.2 million. Yeah,
Okay.
It will fund all those proposed. A lot of restriping in the area. We have
Okay.
a lot of existing pavement in the area, so we'll be able to move some things around.
All right. I mean, I realized 4.2 is a lot of money, but it just seems like these are significant. That makes sense. So, Council, any questions or comments?
Through the chair.
Mayor Hall.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Tim, for that presentation. And also Brad, your presentation. I am very, very grateful that this council is considering this. It will help the city of Surprise and it'll help the region. If you've ever been out there trying to get to Wickenburg or go to Vegas, you've experienced the slowdown. And it's immense. And it's getting more challenging every day. But I really appreciate this funding and the short-term benefits it's going to have. But like you said, Tim, it's not the total answer. It's a short-term answer that we've come up with, and I think it'll help a lot. And so with that, I move to approve the program of
We're not quite
4.2.
ready yet, sir.
Oh, you don't
So-
want me to make the motion? Okay.
Yeah, we'll come back to you for that. But,
Okay.
any additional comments or questions? Mayor Peterson?
I want to say thank you for the presentations. And I think Mayor Osborne made a great point a few minutes ago that it gives us an opportunity to talk about different areas and we don't all get out of our boxes, right? We all live in these boxes that we travel around. I happen to be moving about 8 miles from this location
Right.
in about 6 months. And so I'm really happy to see this happening in the West Valley and excited that Mayor Hall gets to see this during his term as mayor too. I think it is important for us to have these regional conversations. It's bigger than just our cities and towns.
Right.
And that's why we function so well as a region, I believe. So thank you for all the work that you're doing. Appreciate it.
Any other questions or comments? We do have one request to speak on this particular item. Then I'm going to look straight at you, sir. So Diane Barker, you have up to 3 minutes. Please state your name and appropriate information. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so there you go.
Our light, there we go.
And thank you, Chairman Harkey. I can just say that we're playing football. We don't get to play you, Ohio State and I, but I'm in approval of this 4.2. And I think this is a good example of Meg's reaction with the public. 175 people turned out in August up there in Surprise. I think that it's a big surprise that, we even have the mayor from Surprise. I was over at Board of Supervisors and he brought Bob Bringenroth. I know him from back in the city of Phoenix. And the thing about it is the public's catching on, Mayor. There's big plans up around Surprise. And some of you know about the train was mentioned. Well, they're going to be bringing in like logistics and a car loading and everything right around there with Whitman. Kind of reminds me of the Sleeper, and that was GPAC back in the 90s, and it was called the Triangle. Well, what was the triangle, the economic triangle? It was Phoenix, Las Vegas, and LA makes triangle. It's happening. And, I've enjoyed being a bicyclist. I like to go on the diagonal, it cuts things down. This corridor all up Grand Avenue really is the faster way to go rather than the grid system. And we have started implementing the last 10 years a lot of things with bus rapid transit. I went on the express up to Surprise, and it was great. I felt like, I was going on a coach. It was a very nice bus. And I can see in the future that the expansion, I understand this money and what you already gave 10 million, could be possibly for improvements even without, like to mention it with 479 not going forward, that we would still have federal money and Prop 400 in this. So I'm very hopeful of this improvement and the bus rapid transit. And, let's get a little more information out about the things that are happening, now that they can accommodate more people and services than they ever thought Surprise would ever grow into. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barker. My understanding is we've not received any written comments on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That is correct.
Very good. So is there a motion to
Yes.
approve item number 7.
I move for the approval to program 4.2 million from the Freeway Life Cycle Program minor improvements allocation to the next phase interim improvements at the US 60 Grand Avenue and Loop 303.
Thank you, Mayor Hall. Thank you, Mayor Peterson. We will have those again participating in the meeting online take part in the votes by turning on their cameras, unmuting their audios. Members, please leave your cameras on until after the roll call is complete. Can I have a voice vote of all those in this room and online? Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When I call your name, please indicate how you vote. Mayor Molina?
Aye.
Thank you. And Mr. Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you so much. Well done, Mayor Hall. Great. Item number 8 is the Diamond Grind Pilot Program Expansion, the quarterly update. This item is on the agenda for information and discussion. Araminta Syed is Policy and Initiatives Program Manager, will present the item. Araminta.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of Regional Council. I'm here today to provide the latest quarterly update on the expansion of the pilot program. Before I get into this particular update, I'll just do a brief review of the pilot program itself. This was originally approved back in June of 2020 by the MAG Regional Council to assess Diamond Grind as an alternative surface treatment to rubberized asphalt overlay, and it included implementing Diamond Grind on 3 regional freeway program projects and then assessing its performance. And then as the pilot program went on, several evaluation efforts were completed. And then we came back in October of last year and provided an update on those findings to Transportation Policy Committee. And based on those findings, which found that Diamond Grind outperformed rubberized asphalt overlay in nearly every category, including life cycle cost, MAG Regional Council approved expanding the pilot program in November of 2023. And that included not only expanding it to future regional freeway program projects, but also continuing to study its performance, continuing to monitor its long-term performance, and ensuring consistency in how it performed, and then also providing these regular quarterly updates. And so that gets us to today's quarterly update, which covers the activities underway over the last quarter. This includes a couple of study efforts, the first being the Freeway Noise Analysis Study, Phase 2, and the second being the Urban Heat Island Study. Both of these just completed a major measurement collection phase, and analysis of that data is currently underway. This map here shows the status of different freeway projects that have implemented or are implementing Diamond Grind. These projects largely remain the same as the prior update that was provided back in August of 24. And then a couple of additional related activities underway. The first being an update of pavement conditions. In the investment plan partially funded through Prop 479, there is a set aside for the capital rehabilitation of freeway pavements. And so this update will help to inform sequencing of that allocation. And then also, as part of the long-term performance monitoring, ADOT has initiated an annual ride quality monitoring program where they collect ride quality data on all Diamond Grind surfaces to date and then assess how it performs as that surface ages. And then finally, a key piece of that performance assessment is ensuring that Diamond Grind has been applied consistently throughout all the projects. To date, there's only been one inconsistency, and that's been on the very first pilot project on Loop 101 Price between Baseline Road to Loop 202. It's the only project as of today that has implemented Diamond Grind and received significant concerns from the public regarding traffic noise. And so when we investigated further in coordination with ADOT, what we found was evidence of transverse tines. These are these lines that are known to cause a sound called tire whining, which is a high-pitched noise. And so to help address this, MAG and ADOT did partner to regrind that corridor and then remove any evidence of those transverse tines. And so that effort was completed in August of 24. And what you see here is a video of that corridor once that work was completed. And then here is a before and after comparison, before the regrind occurred and then after the regrind occurred in August 2024. And since that work was done, ADOT has not received any public comments regarding traffic noise. And then in addition, ADOT did complete a noise assessment comparing noise data from before and after the regrind was done. And what they found was that in comparing the noise data from before the regrind in April and then also after in August, which is shown here in the orange line, there was a reduction in sound peaks in both that low pitch and high pitch range. And then on average, traffic noise was reduced by 3.5 decibels. And so in terms of next steps, some of those active efforts that are currently underway will continue doing their work, and the status of those efforts will be provided as part of the next quarterly update in January of 2025. That completes my presentation today, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Arminta. Any questions? Seeing none here, any online? All right. Thank you. And again, Council, this is for information and discussion. Item number 9 is the air quality update. This is also for information and discussion, introduced by Ed Zerker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the council. We come to you regularly with air quality update because this is a big subject. I know I spoke with Chris Camacho at GPEC earlier this week. GPEC is really preparing for the next phases of what happens with our air quality status. And so I know we come to you each month to give you information. And I've heard from many of you repeated back a lot of this information. So hopefully it's helpful to you as your economic developers, as your businesses are talking to you about what's going on. So we wanted to just walk you through this again, where we are now, because we're in the middle of a phase where we're waiting for EPA to make some decisions. But just to remind you before Matt gets into the details, we've talked about having a 3-pronged strategy. It sort of builds as a pyramid. The first is we're doing everything we can to reduce the stuff that goes in the air to reduce ozone. That's the public health requirement that we all want. The second piece is we're trying to work with EPA to find ways to demonstrate. It's called international transport. It's the stuff that comes to us that we don't have control over, either from California, from Mexico, from Asia, and working with EPA to be able to demonstrate that impact on our ozone. And the third is working through with our congressional delegation. Senator Kelly has been a particular leader, along with Senator Sinema and our Congressman Stanton, Congressman Gallego, to really push the EPA to be more creative in how it implements this. So it's a three-pronged strategy. And more recently, we're working on 3 areas. We're turning off the sanctions clocks by doing the submittals that Matt and his team are working at every day. We are developing a plan to submit to the EPA by January 1st of 2026 so that we don't get back into a sanctions situation. And the third piece is continuing to push with EPA on information to help the situation and expanding our territory a bit in working with the Intermountain West cities, Denver, Salt Lake City, Boise, Las Vegas, us, Provo, Utah, Colorado Springs, Fort Collins. We're all in similar situations. We're a little bit farther ahead in terms of seriousness, but they are coming right behind with similar situations where they're trying to reduce ozone, but because in this Intermountain West area, we have the same climate, it's the same topography, the same sunshine, we're all experiencing this. So together we're trying to have a unified voice. I want to thank Mayor Schoaf. We had a great conversation with the West Valley mayors last month about this very subject. With that, I'll turn it over to Matt to walk quickly through kind of the micro where we are right now.
Thank you, Chairman Harkey and members of the Regional Council. To Ed's point, we just really wanted to give you an update on where we are on that Parallel Path 3, our continued engagement with EPA. And as a reminder, back on March 4th, MAG had an opportunity to meet with EPA Assistant Administrator Joe Goffman. Really appreciate the efforts led by Mayor Gallego and Chairman Sellers at that time to present this information to Mr. Goffman. We had 4 asks of Mr. Goffman at this meeting that I want to go over with you again. 1, explain the current ozone science, what's going on. We need a paradigm shift from EPA on how they evaluate wildfires and how wildfires impact ozone. We need EPA to revise their policies on international emissions and how those international emissions impact our ozone. And lastly, we needed EPA to approve specific Maricopa County rules that provide for more emission reduction credits for major industries to grow and expand within Maricopa County. So in response to that meeting, MAG sent a letter to EPA with all of these items, detailed technical letter to Mr. Goffman, and we finally got that response in September. So I just want to highlight EPA's response to us with you. So what did EPA say in terms of our request for current ozone science? So EPA agrees, and they are investigating the disconnect between the trends in measured ozone and emissions. We know that ozone is going up, and like Ed likes to say, the stuff we're putting into the air keeps going down. Why is that happening? They're actually going to present their ideas with us in the fall. Originally, it was going to be Halloween. It's been moved back to sometime in November, and we'll keep you updated on that, what we hear on that.
And this feels a little bureaucratic, but this is actually, I think, a big win that we got the feds in Washington to pay attention to our situation, that they're going to come to us and explain what the science they think has that disconnect. So we're really interested to see what they come up with, and really want to thank you all for pushing, and also Senator Kelly particularly for really pushing on them to take this serious.
Agree. It's like turning an aircraft carrier around a little bit. And EPA, and additionally to giving us their insights on Phoenix, they agree that in general, additional studies are needed on background ozone, the effects of wildfires, the impacts of weather and climate, and also the accuracy of the models that we have to use to estimate future ozone concentrations. So more work is needed in that area. Their response and our request on wildfires, unfortunately, there's been no movement on that issue. EPA still just continues to have us use the existing tools they have, the existing regulations, and work with Region 9 staff. So more work is needed in that area to help them understand the dramatic impacts that wildfires really have on our ozone concentration.
And that's a place where we feel like this alliance with Las Vegas and Denver and Salt Lake City can be a bigger voice on this, because we're all experiencing the same wildfire situation.
Similarly, EPA's our request for EPA to revise their policy on international emissions. Again, no movement on that issue. They don't intend to revise the existing guidance. They say that explicitly. They recommend that we continue discussion with EPA on there's a specific section of the Clean Air Act that allows us to demonstrate how international emissions are impacting our ozone concentrations. We will continue to do that, but again, this is another area where this larger coalition can press EPA for change and modernization. And then lastly, where's EPA at with approval of these Maricopa County rules? There has been some good movement on that. That's taken, again, a lot of political policy work to get those EPA conditional approval. So that's moving in the correct step. But my understanding from Maricopa County is there's still a lot of outstanding issues remaining that they will have to address in order to make these rules usable in the future. And then with that, one more piece I wanted to talk about today, as Ed has mentioned, in addition to our efforts with EPA, we have partnered with Intermountain West MPOs. We got together in May 31st, to talk, hey, what do we want to present to EPA? And what they really wanted to focus on was this science issue. So that was the need. And then a letter was sent to EPA on September 9th from MAG and these 9 MPOs representing all of these areas: Boise, Colorado Springs, Denver, Fort Collins, Las Vegas. It's really a great coalition of folks who are experiencing the same thing. This is a graphic that you have seen before, focused on Arizona, but now we're looking at kind of the 4 major metropolitan areas. We have Las Vegas in orange. We have Salt Lake City in purple. We have us in the light blue and Denver in the dark blue. Those are our ozone concentrations. And then again, the bars are the emissions from all of these 4 states and how they have gone down over time. So the same thing we are experiencing here is experienced throughout the Intermountain West. One thing I'd really like to point out to you that stands out to me in this graphic is if you look at that either dark blue or dark purple line, that's Denver. And then you look at us in the light blue, which is Phoenix. And to me, those lines are almost exactly the same. That tells me that it's not local impacts that's causing our ozone, but something larger, something throughout the Intermountain West. And the real benefit of this Intermountain West letter to EPA is that we have several EPA regions that are represented here. That means headquarters has to respond to this, not just the local regional offices. So it's continued pressure on headquarters to make this a priority for them and to make them focus on our issues out here. If there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I'll start with a couple. On that very last slide, it seemed like every city also is seeing a dip of sorts in the last measurement. Is there any explanation or science for that we're seeing? Is that I'll just leave it at that. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think it's, from my perspective, it's just a little bit better wildfire year. Again, these are 3, each dot represents an average of 3 years. So it's kind of an average over time. The wildfires were really horrible, if you remember, in 21 and 2022. 2023 was a little bit better. So I think the dip there is probably just a representation of a little bit less wildfire activity. This goes through 2023. For 2024, we don't have all of the data, but we expect it to be flat. So the same, basically the same level you're seeing now for 2024 as well.
And that's the expectation across all the cities? Okay.
Correct.
And my second question really has to do with the base load transport. Even so, they've obviously, we've shared with them and others just rural ozone levels. And do they have a thought or explanation for those in terms of that conversation when they're saying that they don't want to change anything? What's the science on their end when they see our rural or other states' rural ozone levels also high?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Harkey. You are correct. A lot of the rural monitors throughout Arizona are very high. They may not be exceeding the ozone standard, but I think almost all of the monitors within the state of Arizona are 65 or higher. So places like the Grand Canyon, the Petrified Forest, places where there is no human activity, it's very close to the standard. I would say the biggest hurdle with international emissions with EPA is they want to see that international emissions are larger than domestic emissions in order to get this exclusion. So they don't really care about the small or a minor contribution of international emissions. They want to see that international emissions are either 50% or 60% of your problem, which we don't think the Clean Air Act states. So that's really our major issue. So that's really what we're focused on, is because we believe while international emissions might not be the entirety of our issue, they do contribute anywhere from 5 to 10 parts per billion, possibly, to our ozone concentration. And it's that delta that's keeping us from attaining. So that's really our argument. And those similar levels would be observed at the rural monitors as well. So we'll take into account when we do our technical analysis how the rural monitors are impacted as well as the urban monitors, if that's helpful.
And there's no way really to determine at our rural monitors what is just a natural ozone level in Arizona, whether it's fire or other related and international. Is there any way to determine that could aid our argument and impact for urban?
Yeah, it's a good question, Mayor Harkey. There are some tracer compounds that people look for wildfires. There's specific compounds that can help you identify a wildfire versus other emissions. But in general, in general, it is very difficult to distinguish between general background and other particular sources of ozone. That's why we're asking for more science to be able to make that distinction better. But we do think we can make a pretty clear case of the emissions that are transported up. We can, through air patterns, through meteorological analyses, we think there's a way to show transport to the monitor from international regions.
It seems that obviously we can make a case of the urban experience is not the major contributor to ozone and whatever that means too.
Correct.
So, okay, thank you. Additional questions or comments from the board? All right, thank you so much. All right, Mr. Zucker is excited about this, the Executive Director's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the council. Very quickly, last month you all approved a resolution about October as Domestic Violence Month. We took some pictures of everyone in purple. Thank you. And this month in October, thank you. You have lit your city halls purple, had events to recognize it. And so we really want to thank you for your continued efforts to combat domestic violence. If there are questions or other things to put on our website, please contact Amy St. Peter. Next, we want to recognize, we talked about the big award on Grand Avenue and 35th, but we also found out that our member agency Wickenburg received $26 million from the same pool of money with ADOT for US 93. So kind of the last link there in Wickenburg is going to become Divided Highway. I talked to Mayor Pereira. He's very excited to know that they got the full amount that they needed to work with ADOT to finish that section in Wickenburg. So that's a great win for the Northwest Valley and all those who are trying to get to Las Vegas as well. Next, Mayor Harkey, you met with the British Consul General, Paul Rennie, who's based in LA but was over here. There is quite a bit of activity between the British consul, the Canadian consul in LA, and in Phoenix. If you'd like to know more about that, you can contact Sapna Gupta in our office. She's works closely in those international relations. But thank you, Mayor, for representing us in meeting with the British UK consul to talk about economic collaboration, advanced manufacturing, semiconductors, batteries, and renewable energy. Next, we talked last month about the I-10 freeway corridor in downtown between the tunnel and the split. The staff continues to work with the public on that. They had a big meeting at Burton Barr Library, very well attended, very well reviewed, and so that effort continues. So I want to thank Brad Williams and Tim Stroh, Kelly Taft, Juan Juarez, Jeremy Newman, and Velvet Matthew, who are all staff who are there on site talking to the public about that project. And finally, this is our last meeting before we know the results of the election. There's a few other things on there, but mostly 479 is what we're worried about here. Thank you to you all. We've kind of walked through this over the last 6 months of the member agencies and what you've done to educate your public about what is in 479. Fountain Hills has posted a link to our educational page at azmag.gov/prop479. Thanks to Litchfield Park, who posted the publicity pamphlet. Others, Guadalupe, Gilbert, and Glendale have some efforts on. We're showing up here the pages for education. And just thank you to all of you all. I think all of our member agencies have posted something about Prop 479 along the way. And with that, we're looking forward to the evening of November 5th to hopefully be able to start a new chapter of transportation in the region. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Zucker. There's no scheduled legislative update tonight, or this afternoon, but does anyone have any questions that staff can look into? All right, seeing none, we will all be paying close attention to November 5th, I'm sure. Item 12, requests for future agenda items. Are there any requests from the members on a future agenda? Seeing none, comments from the committee. Mayor.
Thank you, Chair, and to fellow members of MAG. It's important to highlight the positive outcome from several projects in Scottsdale, which were funded by Prop 400. In particular, I point out the Pima Road at Pinnacle Peak improvements that were completed. We had a 70% participation by the regional sales tax in Maricopa County, and that was Prop 400 monies. It's important to point out that these roadway solutions on the slide to the right, you'll see that there are also significant drainage solutions. And once those drainage as well as pathways and additional car lanes are provided, well, then we can protect properties, and we have reclassified several major parcels according to FEMA standards. So there's multiple positives with that. Another project we just awarded last week is a $43 million improvement. It looks similar to this, but it will be Scottsdale Road at Dynamite, and it also will help complete the east-west transit in our northern part of Scottsdale. And that is completed with federal funds. It's a $43 million project, but $30 million is from the federal government. So as you look at a great return, our contribution is just under 13 million, and we are marching northward, and this is a major arterial necessity for the entire region. So I just wanted to point that out as a highlight, and certainly look forward to other solutions in Prop 479. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Ortega. I also would just like to thank Mayor Smith, Wheatley, and Peterson for Waymo carpooling with me today. We had a great conversation, learned more about Waymo and seeing how they drive and the kind of the nuances of an autonomous vehicle, and got here on time. That was the most important.
We solved all the problems in the world.
There you go. When mayors get together, problems get solved. That's the lesson here. All right. Seeing no others, thank you. That adjourns our meeting.
Yeah.